call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.
What up? Welcome back once again to the Necro Zoo. I am Bones. And in this one, let's go ahead and add one more vehicle and another figure to my McFarlane DC Multiverse collection. Now, today we will be taking a look at the Batpod and Catwoman set. Now, I did pick this up from the McFarlane toy store, and as how we have discussed before, I was not too happy with the price. I think that if he would have put this at $49.99 or even maybe $59.99, I would have went ahead and scooped up two with the quickness. But no, this was $69.99 plus shipping, and I was not too happy about that. Now, could I turn down a awesome 7-inch scale Batpod and a gorgeous Anne Hathaway Catwoman action figure? Now, of course, hell no. I did want these in my collection. Dark Knight Rises being my favorite film in the Dark Knight trilogy. I'm wondering if you could guess why. Maybe you thought it was the butt, and yeah, I enjoyed that too, but I really love that third part of the Dark Knight trilogy. Now, this does come in a complete box. There is no packaging or anything like that, so we couldn't take a look at her cunningness until we opened up the package. But you do have some pretty nice artwork on the box. Comes in a lot of cardboard pieces, and all the little parts come in little baggies, so that's not too spectacular. So I skipped that, and let's get right into the review. Now, you do get this awesome Batpod and of course your Catwoman figure, and I was actually really surprised at how large the Batpod actually is. Now, we do want to take a closer look at this vehicle, but I also first want to take a look at the Catwoman figure. But first, you do get in the box a standard black DC Multiverse stand. Now, of course, these are not really needed, but sometimes they do come in useful. They also come with a data file card, have a pretty nice image there on the front from the film. Now, this is pretty surprising, especially with the Warner Brothers gun ban, but you can actually see the guns firing on the Batpod, and you could see all the beautiful rain of shells around Catwoman. So I thought it was pretty interesting that they allowed this with their gun ban. I do appreciate the image referencing the film. On the back, you do have some information. Pretty sweet. We'll add that to the collection. Now, she does come with two alternate hands. Now, these are these splayed open hands, which actually give her a lot of attitude and emotion in her gesturing, especially if you want to do figure photography and stuff like that. So it's pretty cool. And the only other thing you get is actually the guns that are mounted on the front of the Batpod. Now, these are pretty interesting as well. As I said, it is pretty interesting that Warner Brother allowed this, because you could pretty much see the muzzles and the barrels of the guns that are mounted onto the Batpod. So pretty interesting, but we'll hold on to those. Appreciated. But let's go ahead and first take a look at the Catwoman figure. Now, I actually do have a lot to get into here because this is a pretty interesting figure. Now, there's one big negative that I did not like, but the only thing that counteracts that is that a lot of things I thought of this figure were actually not true. And once again, as I always say, I don't understand why people make their assumptions and start talking trash about figures that we only have photos of. And once you get it in hand, you can really see the positives and the negatives of a figure. Now, in first impressions, it looks really good. I mean, this is what I would expect from a McFarlane 7-inch scale Catwoman figure. Now, I did hear a lot of rumors from this is just reuse, to she's going to be taller than Batman, to her face doesn't look anything like Anne Hathaway. And I mean, all those things become a little bit clearer once you actually have her in hand. First thing off the bat I could see is the beautiful texture work that they did on the costume. You could see it from here. She has that beautiful little grain on her costume. You could even see like a zipper and little straps, all over the costume. Just the attention to detail is really nice. Really, really clean looking Catwoman figure. Now let's take a closer look at the head. There's nothing wrong with it. In certain, turns, it does look exactly like Anne Hathaway, and in some other ones, it doesn't. But something I thought was really interesting is that her goggles are actually articulated, so you can actually move those down and cover her eyes, and then it really looks like Anne Hathaway. Like it does look, spitting image of Anne Hathaway, and then you raise them and it's a little bit off a little bit, but in all honesty, it's close enough for me. I mean, this is not a Hot Toys figure. This is a basically around a $25 figure, give or take a couple of bucks. And in all honesty, I would actually pay 25 bucks for her. Once we get into it, you're going to see exactly what I'm talking about. But the likeness is there for the most part. I really like the way they sculpted out the domino mask. You can see the detail in it. It looks really good. Awesome, awesome head sculpt. Now the hair is kind of sticking up, and I think they did this so that she can look up really well for when she's riding the Batpod. Speaking of that, let's take a look at the articulation. She looks down really well, but that hair is really free flowing. And then, of course, like I said, she looks up awesome. Pretty nice. She got right to left. And of course, she could tilt her head for some attitude. But that hair does kind of fly upwards a little bit. It's kind of hard to get it to lay down. But that's basically because you want her looking almost straight up when she's riding the Batpod. Pretty nice. Let's go ahead and move down. The body shape is really gorgeous. I mean, she has a pretty nice hourglass figure. You can see a little bit of that voluptuousness coming out from the sculpt work. Looks really nice, even from the front here. Now, she's not the thickest figure we've seen, but she does have a little bit of curves on her. It looks really good. I'm really happy with this figure so far. Check out the waist articulation. You do have side to side. You have the full tilt-a-whirl at the waist. You got a lower waist swivel, upper chest swivel. You could twist her, get her in some action poses. Slight forward crunch. But what you really want from her, of course, is to lean back. And she does that magnificently. Let's take a look at the shoulder. She does have that socket and bushing shoulder joint from McFarlane. A lot of range and movement. You got up and down, front to back. No bicep swivel, but you do have a cut there right at the top of the gloves, which actually is hidden nicely and works really well. Double jointed elbows that are awesome. You get that full range. This allows you to put her hand up to her goggles if you want her to, be in motion moving her goggles. Pretty nice. Straighten her out. Once again, as I said before, the texturing here is awesomely detailed. You can see the nice little grain so that it separates itself from not being just a flat costume and gives it a more realistic look of an actual material made for a suit. Pretty cool. Now, going down past the gloves into the wrist, you do have that 4 ways of articulation from McFarlane. Some gripping hands. Now, these will be useful when you put her on the Batpod. And on the other side, you have the same thing. Pretty nice. Get her in a T-pose. Pretty smoothly. Get her arms above her head. Awesome. All in all, really happy so far with this figure. Now let's go ahead and go down to the thighs. Now, she has minimal thigh swivel. But what she really does have that is nice is right at the top of the boot, she does have a thigh cut there. So you could get a lot of range of motion. So as always, you could lift up the leg and move the boot from side to side by using the thigh cut. Now, anybody that knows me knows how much I despise thigh cuts that just go across the muscular part of the legs. But this is completely different because they actually hit it where the top of the boot is. And this I am perfectly fine with. For the range of motion and the aesthetics, it works really well. She could kick up really high, kick back as well. Now, do not be afraid. Even her trunks are made of a soft rubber, and that allows for her to kick back. And when you put her legs back to their original position, the rubber actually flexes and goes back to its normal form. Pretty sweet. Now you can cock her leg out. She does get the leg rotation, but it is more with that thigh cut. Double jointed knees look really good. Straighten her out, up and down at the ankle, right to left, rocker, and toe articulation. Now, before we go, there's a couple of things I want to talk about at the lower body, and that is, first of all, love the high heel boots. That is really appealing and attractive. Look at the bottom of her boots. She has the silver painted in, just like in the film for her heels, which is really nice. And you got that clean look from the boots down through the ankles into the shoe. Look really nice. Doesn't break up the sculpt at all and actually flows really well. Now we come into the thing I disliked about this figure, and it is something really strange, and that is if you look on the inside of the boots, you have all that print work, like the identifying marks, and that is really, really hideous. I do not like that. I mean, you can't really see it because it's all black, and especially it's like a shiny sort of latex black. But I just really wish they would have found somewhere else to put that. But I guess it is better to put it there than to put it on her back, or even if they put it and ruined her amazing backside. So it is what it is. That's where they decided to put it. I know the feet are too small. If you look at it from the bottom, they're too small to print anything on there, so they couldn't put it there. You do have some holes for the pegs of the stand, and then moving up the back, you could see the silver in those heels. Nice feel of that smooth, shiny, sort of wet black plastic going up into the bootay, which is actually very nice. Now, it's not the biggest we've seen. It has more of an athletic, build to it, but I'm a fan, so that looks good. Then up into the back, more beautiful design and texture work. So, like I said, I'm really satisfied with this figure, and I'm not even done yet. We're going to look at something that I didn't even know until I actually had her in hand, and that is that if you bring out the Nightfall Catwoman, now this is who everybody told me that this was reuse of the Nightfall Catwoman, and the only difference was that the body was actually textured, but it was basically just a reuse figure. And now that I have both here, you can look and see that this is not a reuse of the Catwoman. The cut for the arm is way lower than on the Catwoman. That's more up towards the shoulder, while this one is just past the elbow. And the boots are really not the same. They are completely different. So basically, you're looking at probably a 90% original sculpt figure. That is, maybe the ball joint is the same for the ankles or the wrist, but everything else is original sculpt. Even the boots are different. The Nightfall Catwomans are a little bit more pointy. Now, I really wish they would have just used the same boots for this version, but it's fine the way it is. But this is what I tell everybody: don't get too excited when you see images, because the final tally will be when you actually get the figure in hand. So I thought that was really interesting because everybody told me it was just reuse, and I actually, bought into that. I actually thought it was just reuse of the Nightfall Catwoman. And now when I actually get her in hand, come to find out she is actually all original. Now, another thing that even I saw in the images was her legs looked like they had that, you know, how McFarlane sometimes makes the legs like super long and it just looks awkward. Well, come to find out, once you get the figure in hand, she is actually really well proportioned. I mean, she has long legs, but that is screen accurate because Anne Hathaway had some pretty, legs for days in that film, but they do not look abnormally long like I thought they were going to. They actually are proportioned really well. So I was really surprised by that. Now it is very easy to pop out her hand and get these gesturing hands in there, which actually, work really well. Looks pretty awesome. But all in all, awesome Catwoman figure. She looks really good. I'm really happy with her. I didn't, know what to expect until I actually got her in hand, but I'm actually glad that I ordered this set. I'm glad that I took the chance on getting this figure and adding her to my collection. Now, people are saying that you could find a platinum Catwoman. They should be hitting your targets if you want to go and check it out. Now, I actually already bought one from Big Bad Toy Store, and that one's already been shipped, so I'll be getting that. But that one is pretty interesting because it has like Bruce Wayne's mom's pearls, and it has the broken cowl, for Bane to hold on to. So that's going to be a pretty cool figure to pick up. And it'll especially be cool if you could find it in the wild. But I'm happy to have this one in my collection. Now, here's another thing that I heard people talking about, and that was that, oh, look at her legs. They're so long. She's going to be taller than Batman. So I do have my Batman Christian Bale here. And let's go ahead and put him next to her. And no, she is not taller than Batman. In fact, she is actually scaled out almost perfectly. There should definitely be no argument that she is scaled out well with the Batman figure. Now, for fun, I did want to go ahead and bring out my boy Bane because, he wants in on the action. And yeah, he's even taller than her. And yeah, he even scales perfectly with her. Really happy with the figure. She's going to be an awesome addition to my Dark Knight trilogy shelf. So now we can finally take a look at the Batpod. Now, this was pretty big. As you can see, it is a pretty big vehicle. I think I have a motorcycle here. If you look, at the size with the motorcycle, it's pretty long, pretty well designed from what I could see. If you look at the wheel, it spins really well, and you think it's going to stop. It doesn't stop, it just keeps going. So that was some really nice design there. If you set it down, it has a little springiness to it. You could see that. Sort of like a suspension, which is cool. And I heard a lot of people complaining that it didn't come with any kind of stand, but in all honesty, it doesn't need a stand. It kind of just sits on its own, like kind of the way they designed it is it balances itself out. So that was really not a problem. Now, taking a closer look at it, doesn't have as much like silver in it with like all the little tubes, and you could kind of see it does have a little bit of a silver wash, but it is minimal and it's mostly contained in like the gun barrels and the shocks and all the other little metal parts. But it's really easy to get some silver paint and add in the little tubes. And you can even look up images from the film and get close-up images and add that little bit of silver. To me, that does not bother me at all. What I really like is the way this was designed and how large it is. Really cool as a display piece, especially if you are a fan of the Dark Knight trilogy. This is awesome. Now, it does come with the gun mounts, and they are different. At first, I could it was kind of weird, but you have this round one, and it actually just snaps on there on one side. Then you have the other side, which is a little bit trickier, but it's just as simple. Once you figure it out, it just goes in like this, and you clip it in there, and it's you got both, both sides of your guns. So really not a problem there. Now, I did find something else interesting, and aside from these handles being like a softer plastic, and if you know anything, you know that the Mattel ones, they were a little bit notorious for breaking, especially when you would try and get the figures in there. And these are not going to have that problem. They are really soft plastic, and that allows you to put a larger figure or a smaller figure, and these will actually bend to get into the grips. Now, the Catwoman actually fits perfectly on this. It looks awesome. Although I don't necessarily think I'm going to have her writing this. Another cool thing about these is that they actually pop out, and it's not broken or anything. You can actually pop these out on both sides. They have like these little inserts, and you can pop actually both sides out. That may help if you want to get a figure in there and get his hands in there and then snap these in after. That might be easier for you, but I did get her in here and she did fit perfectly. Now, what I am going to do, I think, is I'm actually going to put my Christian Bale Batman. Now, this one is actually a custom one because he is all black and he does fit on the Batpod perfectly. I do have another Bale Batman, but that's in the original way it was released. It's up here on my shelf. So I may end up just displaying this Batpod with this Batman riding him. Maybe switch it out to a cloth cape. I do have an extra one of those laying around. In fact, I think I have it right here. I have this like faux leather cloth cape. I could, switch out for this one. And basically, I think I'm just going to be posing the Anne Hathaway figure on my shelf. Put her in a nice little pose. Now, she is really well articulated. You can crouch her down. You could get her in kicking poses. Really well balanced and executed female figure. Even with those stiletto boots, she is awesome. And I think she may just end up having a little bit of fun with Bane up there on the shelf. And we'll let Batman be riding this Batpod. But in all honesty, I wasn't happy about the price. I am like surprised at how happy I was with the Hathaway Catwoman figure, and the Batpod is a cool little addition to my vehicle collection because I don't actually have a large Batpod, to scale. In the end, I'm pretty happy with it. Now, as I said before, I didn't really like the price. I could have ended up buying two, and because of the price, I only bought one set. And if they never go on sale, or I see that they're starting to go out of stock, I may end up ordering another one just to keep in prosperity for my collection. But who knows how it goes? We'll see what happens. But anyways, you guys keep hunting out there, keep collecting, keep customizing, and I will see you on the next one.
They used to call me Crazy Joe, but now they can call me Batman.